Hello, everybody. We are at PHP Tech 2009, and I can't remember what we're actually at. It's been a long week. And I managed to corner somebody else to tell us a little bit about themselves. Go for it, Travis.
Travis Swicegood, author of Pragmatic Version Control Using Git and PHP Troublemaker.
Great. So what do you do in the community? What sort of things do you do in general?
I'm a member of the PAIR group, the advisory committee that sets things like coding standards, and we're working hard on PAIR 2, which will be the PHP 5.3 version of PAIR, using namespaces and all that goodness.
Wow, sounds pretty cool.
Yeah.
So I wanted to ask you a little bit about Git. You obviously wrote the book on it. That's kind of cool.
Yeah.
So people that are currently using Subversion, what would you say, or what would you say are some benefits to using Git over Subversion?
There's a lot of benefits. One, it uses a much more efficient, from the geek side, it uses a more efficient storage algorithm to store repositories. Given something the size of PHP source, for example, a checkout from our current Subversion testing repository ranges somewhere in the neighborhood of about 75 to 100 megs, depending on which extensions you throw into it. Just the repository part of it, not the working copy, in a Git clone of that, comes up to around 65 megs. And that's the entire history of PHP source trunk. So that's all of the commits that have been made in it since we started tracking it with CVS.
Wow, it's pretty significant.
Yeah. In addition to that, you've got things like cheap local branching. There's no communicating with another server. Since it's a distributed system, the repository lives on your computer right alongside. It's your working tree in Git, but it's the equivalent of a working copy in Subversion.
Great. You also made a joke the other day in reference to being stuck offline at a conference.
Yeah, so we've had a couple of guys trying to commit patches to CVS, and the internet here has been like it is at just about every conference, and flaky at best would be a good way to describe it. And when you're using something like Git, you can make that commit locally, track the change as you're making it right there, and then when you have that internet connectivity, you can push that change back to the repo and share it with everyone. It takes and divides the commit and share process, where a centralized system like CVS that PHP source currently uses, or Subversion, which is pretty much the industry standard right now, when you commit, you share at the exact same time.
Makes some sense. So people getting started converting from Subversion or even CVS to Git, what are some things that you might warn them about?
The first thing is it's a little bit of a paradigm shift. Switching from a commit being shared with everyone to just a commit is marking a change and putting some significant message along with that, explaining what you were doing, and sharing that with everyone else. That seems a little bit different. A lot of people, when they first start, they want to do a Git commit and then push immediately. Being able to have that sort of mental review process by making the commit, working a little bit more on it, making another commit, maybe going and cleaning it up a little bit, and then sharing it when it's ready, sort of gives you a chance to make sure you're putting forth the best code possible.
Makes quite a bit of sense. So there are a number of different projects that are using Subversion that probably won't switch over to Git any given time. What are the options some of those contributors might have?
Well, this is one of the strong points of Git and why it gained a lot of traction to start with. Git does have a bidirectional communication with Subversion. So I can use the command git svn clone and clone the entire history of a Subversion repository, and then pull changes from that when people commit changes to the Subversion repository, and that'll be stored on my local Git repo, and then I can push changes back to the Subversion repository when I've got them ready.
So on a given project, the core repository itself can be Subversion. Your other team members can use Subversion. You can use Git if it suits you.
Yes.
And without affecting anybody else's workflow, without bugging them at all.
Correct. And the
Nice.
last few companies that I've worked with have all had Subversion repositories, and one of the first things I do when I started a company is make a clone of the Subversion repository. And I've noticed a shift. More and more people started doing that when they would see how much easier it was to work with Git once you shift the terminology and paradigm around.
Sounds pretty nifty.
Yeah.
Travis, thank you for your time.
Thank you.
We're signing off from PHP Tech 2009. Thank you.
Yep.